Here at Ceredigion Museum, we try to reflect the history of the county, really, and part of that history is what one might consider to be rather a poor history, where people had to make their furniture, their homes, their livelihood out of very little. And one of my favourite objects, which is, I suppose, something that I feel quite emotionally attached to, really, is a Cardigan Chair. It's a stick-back chair. Not only is it one of the items that I think I've had a very long association with, because I've worked at Ceredigion Museum for almost 40 years now, I've actually felt that it's something that has been loved over the years, and I think I've loved it as well, because I've polished it a lot. It's a chair that would have been sitting next to a peat fire. And peat fires you would have had very low on the floor. So that's why it's most probably so low, is that it would have made you very near to the fire where you would have been cooking as well. It tells of a sort of poor history where people would have been in a small cottage, a dark small cottage. The construction of the chair, I'll just show you. What's most interesting, I think, is the fact that the backrest, the top here, is one branch. And to actually find that branch must have taken the person who constructed it quite a long time. It's a beautiful piece of wood and been carved in a way that actually makes it quite a sort of classical design, really. I think over the years it has been repaired quite a lot. The spindles at the back, the legs, which would have been most probably in a damp, muddy environment, have been replaced. But they've still kept that sort of original look. There are splat backs as well. And you can see that here, the back leg, 3 legs actually were used on most early and primitive chairs, because obviously, well, I don't know, it's not obvious, but they would have been on mud pressed floors, and 3 legs are more steady than 4 legs. This has actually come through here at the back. It should be actually level with the surface. The other thing about this particular chair is, over the years, it's been used to chop wood on, and you can see the axe marks actually in the chair. I have polished it a lot. I remember my grandmother at home used to polish our furniture, and when she was getting older, well, she lost her sight, and she used to say, "I like to see polished furniture," even though she couldn't see. And when I polish this, it makes me feel very close to her. Ystrad Fflur Abbey, near Pontrhydyfen, not far from Aberystwyth, is a place where you'll find a beautiful ruined abbey. And we have some of the tiles, floor tiles, from that abbey here at the Archaeology Gallery at Ceredigion Museum. I'm interested in them because at one point in my career, I decided I wanted to do some amateur pottery making, some ceramics. And I was influenced when I saw the ceramics as to how they actually constructed the tiles. It was said at the time that there were itinerant pottery makers who would travel to different abbeys to make the ceramics. This area is not known for its earthenware clay, so I presume that they must have brought the clay with them. Now, to actually construct a tile, they would have had wooden relief patterns, which they would have pressed into the clay. This one is one of the ones I made in my evening class. As you can see, I've sort of copied one of the original designs, but mine's much smaller and much thinner. They would have pressed in, making a slight depression, as you would see in some of the tiles that we have here, and then covered the whole of what would have been red clay with a white slip, which is a kind of a liquid clay, white. And then, once that clay was in the depression, they would have let that dry and then filed it down so that the pattern, the white pattern, would show in the depression. That was then fired in a kiln to make it really, really hard. If you go to Ystrad Fflur today, you'll still see the tiles there. they've actually put a whole display of them at the far end of what is the ruin, really. There is a lovely arch still there, which you can see, and there is a small museum there, which tells you a bit of the history of the monks and the life that they led in Ystrad Fflur. This is one of Bill Dane's glove puppets, Mr. Punch. We have a collection of about 120 glove puppets. Bill Dane was a charismatic character, a very exuberant, eccentric really, who lived at Tregaron. He didn't actually become a glove puppet and, well, a professor really, until he retired. He started his career as breeding cattle, and then decided in his retirement to start performing with glove puppets. He performed on Aberystwyth Promenade from 1985 till 1995 when he retired, and he approached the museum to really deposit his collection of glove puppets. He'd been collecting for that 10 years, but during that time he toured to quite a few places, even the Champs-Élysées. From the time that we acquired the collection, we toured the glove puppets to various places all over Britain. We had some great times actually touring the glove puppets to places like Bridlington, Weston-super-Mare, lots of seaside resorts. Obviously museums all over Britain wanted Mr. Punch and of course Judy. They're quite heavy actually. Oh dear, shabongas have come out. I'll have to make her decent. Here we have Mr. Punch and Judy. This Judy is a special Judy. She's rather glamorous, and she was taken all the way to Abu Dhabi when, at one time, Bill Dane was asked to entertain the troops out in the Middle East. This is a rather dangerous Judy. She's got special features. She's what Bill Dane would have described as the adult version of the Judy. As you can see here, not only is she wearing a glamorous wig, but she's rather overdressed. And of course, in the tradition of Mr. Punch, he would actually be a rather violent character. If you know the story, Judy ends up dead, and so does the baby. In fact, everybody in Mr. Punch's life ends up dead. Even, I'm afraid, Bill Dane, Professor.